true love? Did it happen to be real love? Or just something to get through the night? We don't believe in paradise.
We are another episode. If you a podcast chugging along, season 5 been really fun so far. We've had some great artists on, from all parts of the world. It's amazing how music is so universal, and how the love for music is always the same anywhere in the world. This passion that we have in musicians, and today is no exception. I have Zoya Zafar from she's coming in from Orlando, Florida, the southern U.S. Um, and Zoya's music, if you haven't heard it, is beautiful, breezy indie folk. You've got tinges of Mazzy Star and Cat Power and just this lovely intimacy that comes with it. She's been doing this for a while, writing music, and we're going to learn all about it today. So Zoya, thanks so much for taking some time in your day and joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. A real pleasure. I tend to like starting these off, Zoya, with a little bit about where you began with music, when it started to become super important in your life. Can you bring us back in time a bit and paint us that picture of when music really was starting to percolate as something that you knew you were going to be doing for a long time?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I feel like when you have been doing it for so long, it's kind of hard to remember
Right.
when that happened. And you're
Right.
just like,
Right.
"What happened?" Um, I mean, I think I've always been drawn to it, music and even performing too. But I was always a very shy person, and so performing itself was something that came a little bit later, and it was something that completely freaked me out. But
Right.
it was also something that, because it freaked me out, I was like more intrigued. I like wanted to do it a bit more,
Right. Right.
like shock therapy, I guess. But yeah, thinking back, early experiences with music. Well, I my grandma, she sang, and she would sing. In South Asia, they have like these songs called ghazals, which are classical songs that have been written by poets, and they're sang by many different singers. But she she used to sing a lot, and I always really respected her. And she did music her entire life, and even like she never like gave up on it. Even as she got older, like it was just always she would have people come over, and they'd rehearse and practice. So I think that definitely, made me have an early appreciation. My
Right.
dad as well. And I think my dad, he wasn't necessarily like a musician, but he sang, and he also was very involved in like acting and, modeling and theater. And um, also, that was, I think I just came from a very like family that was creative and
Mhm.
expressed a lot, which is, I don't know, I don't want to say it's not common in like South Asian households, but I mean, it's not like the stereotype, I think, when people
Right.
think
Right.
of, um, of families, you know,
You
especially,
felt you felt growing up creativity was important, not only to you but your family as well, and they cherished that within the family unit.
yeah, no, it was very like respected and cherished. And
Hmm.
like my uncle too, he was an architect and a designer, and I lived with him when I was younger. So I
Hmm.
was just really exposed to that. I mean, also my grandma also, instead of just being a singer, she also was a visual artist as well. And so I just like grew up around like, you know, visual arts and music, and it was just never anything that was it was very supported, I guess.
Hmm.
It was a very supportive environment
That's
for
great.
that. So I do feel very lucky that I had that early kind of appreciation and respect for
Right.
it.
Right.
Um, and
What
then
was the
music,
kind of music that you were listening to, like from parents and family, but then as you as a teenager going in, your early, your teenage years and stuff, what was the music that was surrounding you at that time?
yeah. So as a kid, I don't really think I had like my dad listened to some like Frank Sinatra and
Hmm.
uh he had some, but also those experiences were very early on. But I didn't really grow up with him throughout like as a kid, and I was just with my mom.
Hmm.
And she didn't really listen to like I guess modern Western music.
Okay.
Like
Right.
but I don't know, I feel like I didn't really have a lot of exposure to like, the typical like bands from
Hmm.
like even like 60s and 70s music. Like I know a lot of people sometimes discover it through their parents, and I didn't. I
Right.
discovered it on my own later,
Okay.
as a teen.
Hmm. Right.
So I remember my mom. She like worked for Universal, and at her job, they would sometimes give like mixed CDs,
Hmm.
like just kind of songs from like the 80s and 90s, like not even 80s and 90s, but like just in general, like hits. So like
Okay.
they
Like
would even have
compilations
like,
of, right.
yeah, compilation. So there would be like some Elvis, but then there'd be like Wilson Phillips and like other
Hmm.
um, like Bonnie Wright and stuff. So I was like listening to those compilations a lot. That
Right.
was probably like my early. Sometimes she'd get like random CDs and stuff. And I
Hmm.
remember my first album that she like gave me was by this artist called PJ Olson, who I didn't really
Hmm.
know. Like, but I like listened to that CD so much.
Hmm.
Um, that was like
Hmm.
probably the only CD I haven't had of an artist.
Okay.
Um, I mean, besides compilations and stuff.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
But then, like, as a teen, or obviously, like, as a kid, like, I'd hear like top 40s music, pop,
Hmm.
early 2000s, like, that was everywhere. So that
Right.
was obviously what I was exposed to. And then, um, as a teen, like, I got more into like, other like music, and like, I just discovered music online, like,
Hmm.
got really into like 60s and 70s folk and classic rock when I was in high school.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a time too when, people were making CDs and like burning CDs and
Right.
making
Right.
like so I think I just discovered things through friends. I Then I also really started getting into like more folk music. I remember actually I discovered some music through like soundtracks. Like my uncle, he gave me his iPod, and it had the soundtrack for About a Boy. That
Hmm.
was all done by Badly Drawn Boy, and I was like
Right.
obsessed with that soundtrack. So I listened to a lot of Badly Drawn Boy, and I was like, wait, I like this kind of music. So then I
Hmm.
started kind of going from there, and I was like maybe like I don't know 13 at the time, and I was just trying to. Then I kind of went through the rabbit hole, and I discovered artists like Death Cab for Cutie and
Right.
Bright Eyes, and
Right.
um,
More independent artists at the time. I mean, they're
yeah,
pretty big stars nowadays, but when they were first starting out, they were super independent, right? Starting.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And then,
So just oh yeah, I was just gonna say, just
yeah.
I think it was just through different types of media that I just, found
Right.
like first the vibe, and then so it was
Right.
definitely an exploration. I think it was very like authentic. Like I just really like that type
Yeah.
of music.
Yeah. It's similar to a lot of artists. Like we're musician minors, right? Like you mentioned, we go down that rabbit hole and then one
Yeah.
artist will bring the other one in and then the other one in. And there's so many amazing artists out there. And like how many songs and how many bands and how many, are out there. It's just amazing how much
Hmm.
wealth that we have of this creative output. Um, when did your guitar walk in the door? Like, so you were going through, enjoying music, creativity was a part of who you were. Music was sparking in you.
Yeah.
When did it start where you were like, hey, I want to try that? Like what was that connection and how did that all begin with your first instrument and your first songwriting experiences?
Yeah. I think around um like 13 or 14, I like before guitar and like I think I was always like writing songs in my head, like just
Mm,
melodies, like since I was a kid.
mm,
And then I just guitar seemed cool, so I wanted to know how to play it. And
right.
I remember like I think I went to this new school that was just like brand new built, and had a guitar. They started like doing a guitar class, and I thought that was like it was just like a new thing. Like no schools really had that. So I took a guitar class like when I was 13 at my
Mm,
school, and I wouldn't say it was like a great experience, but it was like a huge class of like 40 kids, mainly boys. There was like three girls, and it
mm,
was just there were too many kids in the class and one teacher, and we weren't really like learning like cool stuff, you know. But I mean, I guess it did help me learn like basics. But
right.
I remember like the summer after, I was just like, but I didn't like learn any songs that I like. So I think just
Mm,
that summer after, I was just like, okay, let me try to like actually learn guitar and like you know make this fun for me and learn the songs that I like.
right.
Um,
Right.
And then I think writing songs just kind of came naturally. Like as soon as I could kind of figure some stuff out, like I wanted to write songs. So
Mm, mm,
it just like
mm.
felt like it was just
It worked.
it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And do you remember some of those first songs? Were those first songs on the EP that you put out in 2023? It was the just your self-titled EP? Like, were those some of your first songs that you had written?
Yeah, some of those were very early. I wouldn't say they were like yeah, they were pretty much those that first batch of songs. And I
Mm,
think um I was writing so many songs. Like I was just kind of going like crazy at it,
mm.
because I think when something's new and it's exciting, you're,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
beginner's mind, you're just going all over the place. So,
yeah.
but I
Mm,
guess those are the more refined
mm,
songs that I kind of like landed on.
mm.
So those were, yeah. So they do have a special place in my heart because I'm like, oh, this was. And I did my first like open mic too when I was like around 15 and 16. So like immediately after writing, I was like, I want to,
Let's
go to
go for it. You really went for it. I mean, at 15 too. It's like, wow. Like,
yeah.
where did you, like you said at the start too, that you're kind of a shy person, and it it takes a bit of oomph
Oh
to
yeah.
put yourself in that vulnerable situation where there you are. Here's some songs that come from my heart that I've penned.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? Like, do you remember like the lead up to it and like how you managed to push yourself to go through with it?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was definitely very nerve-wracking. I used to throw up before playing
Mm,
in front of people, and
mm,
especially these open mics, I'd have to throw up because I was just so anxious.
right, right.
Um, but
Mm,
I think early on in my life, because I told you I was kind of drawn to performing, but was so scared of it.
mm-hmm.
And when I was like, 10 or 11, I did like a musical theater class in school,
Okay.
and it was the most like I remember like they wanted everyone to sing like a song in the beginning and I could not sing, like I just couldn't. So
Mm,
that never happened. And then for like that entire year, I was just like not like really I guess I just never like had an opportunity to sing in the class. I mean, I was always like put in the back and stuff, which was
mm,
fine. But then we did another audition and they were going to be really selective for like the next year.
mm.
And for that one, I did perform finally. I was like, okay. And then I just remember my teacher, she was just like so proud of me. And
Nice.
she was like in tears. And
Oh,
I think
nice.
that was like a big thing of encouragement. I'm like, oh, I can kind of face my fears. And like,
Yeah.
and she put me into the program. And I was just like, okay, like maybe just that feeling of accomplishment, like I think stuck with me. So
Mm. It's
um,
amazing. It's such
when
a
I
good
was
story.
yeah, no, I literally
Mm,
went from, like, being, like, not being able to say, like,
right.
anything come out of my mouth.
Right. Right. And
Um,
how did you find your style? Like, how did you come to how you wanted to write songs? Like, what was that transition or that journey like for you to kind of find your voice and the way you wanted to write songs?
yeah, um That's a good question because I feel like it's evolved a lot even
Hmm.
early on. Like, I think obviously like influences and what you listen to affects it. I remember my earlier stuff was very like wordy and and then I think I've slowly evolved to making things a bit more minimal, but trying not
Yeah.
to, I don't know, because that's a good question. Because I think it's a mixture of like just artists I was listening to and kind of also just trying to find a spot where I felt like I could um that represented me and
Hmm.
like my
Hmm.
experiences.
Hmm.
Um, but it did go through a lot of different stages of, overwriting and then paring stuff back. And I think I also really just loved writing in general. And um, but yeah, I don't know, that's a good question. And I think I'm still like evolving too. Like I feel
Right.
like
Right. Well, I've noticed like from 2013 to the singles that you're putting out nowadays, and the record you put out too, like last year I think it was, right, in 2024.
Mhm. Yeah,
Let me get the name. Some songs,
yeah.
May 2024. Um, I totally agree with you on you've gone more minimal. You've allowed room, more space in between. And it
Hmm.
creates, I was telling you, trying to describe this air, this lightness to it, kind of dreamy. And your voice just flutters around there, and it's just so amazing. I was saying before we hopped on here how I've just been obsessed with listening to your songs, um, and really listening to all the years. Like I just have a huge
Oh
mix of your
wow.
stuff from 2013 all the way. Now,
Wow.
you had a pause for a while. Um, is that correct?
Yeah. I did have a pause.
Yeah.
I think just I would say like the bigger pause was in recent years,
Mm,
from like I think 2017, 2018 to until I released the album,
right.
which
Right.
is like a good
Which
chunk of
were some COVID years in there, right, as well. And
yeah.
yeah, did music just kind of like it wasn't doing like was it writer's block you were hit with, or the music just wasn't doing it for you anymore, or like life events just
Yeah.
prevented you? Like, what can you share that? I don't want to pry,
No.
but I was
Yeah.
curious about that. It seemed like there was quite a few years where you were quiet with your music.
Yeah. Um Yeah, so it was like a combination of all those things you mentioned, like life
Mm,
events,
right,
um, mental state of, and just
right,
I think also um, where I kind of learned is that, I need to really take care of myself because I think for me at least, like being creative and stuff, and that kind of, if I'm like really in a bad place, like it's not something that I can be as
right.
creative. And
Totally,
for
totally.
a while it was like, oh, what am I not a real artist if I can't turn my pain into art? And it's just like,
Mm,
no, like it's not the
mm,
time. And it's okay. And I think it does shake you sometimes if your whole identity has been, you know, a
right.
musician and you're like, oh my God, but this is like supposed to be like a good time to make an incredible album. And I'm like, I can't create anything. I can't write a song. And it was at that point where I was like, even the songs that I had written, that I wanted to release and stuff, they kind of lost their meaning.
Mm,
Um, in
mm,
2018, like my dad passed away and my grandma really,
mm.
they passed away within a few months of each other. And
Okay.
I think also because as I mentioned, they were also like early experiences of music and
Right, right.
creativity. It just
It's just
dealing with
too
that one.
painful. Yeah,
It
I can
was, and
imagine.
I was,
Tough.
yeah, and it was a very existential time where I'm like, just
Mm,
like these songs just feel like so, um, just in comparison to other stuff, they're just like, they kind of
right,
lost something.
right, right.
But it's
And
not
were
that.
some songs like those were the songs that changed their meaning, or they just they didn't come across it the same way after having these, difficult, periods of life.
Yes,
Yeah.
to an extent, yeah, because I remember, um, like, I did have a lot of these songs, like, and I think also it was just the timing too, of, like wanting to release music earlier, but then not having like the financial means to like
Right.
get it the way I wanted or envisioned it.
Right.
Um, but and it's not that I ever felt that the songs like lost their meaning. It's just like during that time of my life, it was
Mm.
not something I could focus on. Or
Right. Right. Right.
I always, I did cherish the songs, and I
Mm.
always felt like they did mean something to me. But I just
I mean, it's
needed.
just a beautiful record that
Thank you.
from head to bottom. Like it just, I love the sequencing, and like I said too, like those songs, like there's so much room in there that you open them up, and there's this breath of fresh air that it feels like you're singing them. Like that's what it feels like to me. Um, I mean, you meant nothing too. I mean, what a great song. I mean,
Thank
you're a
you.
good reason. I mean, another killer song, clumsy, amazing. So, to you, looking back on this, going through all of that, how do you now look at this? Some songs that was released May 3rd, 2024, like you've had it, it's almost a year old now, or yeah,
Yeah,
almost a year old. Like how is um your idea or your vision of those songs changed since you've put out that record?
yeah, no, I'm really proud of that album. I think it was definitely you know, a long time coming, and it felt really surreal to finally release them. And
Mm,
also just the whole process of making that album, it was very collaborative. So
mm,
I'm just really grateful for that experience too, just working with other musicians and producers. And no, I'm totally fine with just kind of like, you know, having that there and that being a representation of those songs.
right, right.
Um,
I'm sure that it brings you lots of memories. Just because it seems like the journey of that record had some years to it. And I'm
yeah,
sure lots of reflection and tweaking and everything comes with that space that it came out in. Were Once that record was out, was the spark still there of like, I got to do this again? Because since then you've put out a couple of singles which have been really sweet. We're gonna feature one at the end. I Don't Love You. But did that record kind of rekindle um your interest in pursuing music further?
yeah, it did. I think obviously the encouragement, the
Mm-hmm.
external encouragement, I know I don't want to say that like the validation, but it is to an extent, it is
For sure.
encouraging to
For sure.
continue. You're like, okay, like
Totally. I mean, I think because it is such a huge accomplishment, like people don't realize that what musicians go through um for each of these records, for each of these songs, I'd say the sweat, the blood, the tears that go into this, and then it's there, and it's there for everybody to go and take and listen and use the way they want and to say comments on what they think about this and that and the other thing. So I think that it's massive that you got this record out too, plus all of the things that your life had was thrown at you at the same time. It's quite the
yeah,
feat, I'd say.
yeah, and with this album too, a lot of it was recorded finally started like during COVID, so we worked on a lot of it remotely.
Right.
Um, a couple of the songs were done right before like lockdown, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, it was done remotely. And I was also adding another layer. It was like I was also dealing with like health issues and stuff. So
Okay. Okay.
um, that was also, I think, so that record does have a lot of memories. I mean, the songs themselves have memories, like the content, but then also just the process of recording it and
Right.
everything. And I think also just during that time, like of COVID, everything was so isolating. So to work with someone else on this project was also such like a good support and just
Right. Totally.
therapeutic.
Totally. Well, I mean, it's getting lots of attention on Bandcamp, we'll say that,
Yeah.
which is amazing. I mean, I love when I can scroll down and see how many people that have purchased it for you. And I'm like, good. And people out there, if you're listening and you haven't gone and listened to this record yet, go and listen to it, please. Some songs, and there's a few singles that are out as well that are coming. So, so yeah, to kind of bring things here to a close. Again, thanks for joining me. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and hearing your stories and your journey. It's really fascinating. Um, what what's next for you? You have a couple singles out. One came out just in March.
Yeah.
Is there a new record on the horizon, or are you compiling, writing? Can you share any insights into what might be coming in 2025?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'll have an album out this year, but I do plan to at least release some singles. I think feasibility wise, it's probably the direction right now is to maybe just either release singles or maybe an EP. I've been working on some newer stuff, and even in the past few years and even recently, and just experimenting with different sounds. So I think my next release, if it is like a compilation EP or album, will be a combination of different, you know, different. It'll be a bit more experimental, I think.
Fun,
But
fun.
yeah, as
That's
far as
great.
like songwriting thing, I think I'm also trying to also just clear up my vault of songs that I have that I just want to get out and release. So
Um, well, that sounds good to me.
yeah,
One other thing I want to just mention too is I was looking through your YouTube chain, and some of the covers that you do are really amazing. You have a knack for owning it, but choosing some really amazing covers to make your
oh,
own. They've been just really, I've really enjoyed listening to those a lot. And I
thank
saw
you.
too that you had Bizarre Love Triangle New Order song on one of your Bandcamp
Yeah,
posts, which was so cool. I just, it was so
yeah.
good.
I feel like you've probably like reviewed or some one of those early
Yes, I
EPs.
did on my blog. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've
Way
been
back.
listening for a while.
Yeah. No, I've been a fan, I'll tell you. So, um, thank you. I really appreciate talking with you, and I wish you all the best. I hope
Oh,
that you keep going on this music train. I mean, take the time you need, because it seems to really amp up these records that you put out, and the anticipation is just amazing. um, and please stay tuned, guys. At the end, we'll hear the latest track called "I Don't Love You." But I want to thank you again, Zoya, for coming in and sharing some thoughts with us.
yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Chris.
Don't inform me of your former glory. Don't attach me to all your stories. You've fallen back in time. You're speaking in rhyme. I'm sorry, I don't love you. Do you know me like I know you? I don't think you do. I'm walking away from you. yourself.